All right, Jason Hardick, ready? How you doing today? Y'all, thank you for coming. As Team South Carolina walks in the door, room ain't big enough. Okay, is everybody in is coming in? Well, y'all, thank you for coming. And a couple of things I'd like to say before we turn it over to the meteorologist. And that is that I'm real proud of the way Team South Carolina has devised, through a lot of work, a lot of thought, a grand plan that so far is working extremely well. And a lot of thought, a lot of preparation. Of course, we've had a lot of experience in the last few years. But it's working very well, which brings to mind the old expression of you plan your work and you work your plan. And that's what we've done with modifications as necessary as we've gone along. And the other one is the Old Carpenters Rule, which is measure twice and cut once. That is, don't go too fast. Be considerate and determine what the best course is. And that's what we've done, and so far it's working very well. And as you know, the hurricane has cooperated some so far and has gone to the west some, which is relieving some of the tension here. But as to that tension with the weather, here's our meteorologist, John Quagliarello. John?
Thank you, Governor. This morning, the National Hurricane Center has issued a tropical storm watch from South Santee River to north of Edisto Beach. A hurricane watch is also in effect from Edisto Beach farther south, and a storm surge watch is in effect from Isle of Palms south. So those are some of the changes. As of the 2 p.m. advisory, Irma is still a Category 3 hurricane with winds of 125 miles per hour, and it's located about 145 miles southeast of Key West, Florida. Irma will make landfall across the Florida Keys and southwest Florida on Sunday, likely as a major hurricane, then continue northward along the west coast of the Florida Peninsula through early Monday. The forecast track continues to show Irma moving northwest across Georgia while weakening on Monday and Tuesday. While this is certainly good news for South Carolina, the state will still experience impacts from Irma, and it's important to remember that the wind field will be expanding as it passes to the west. The greatest concern probably remains the potential for storm surge inundation of low-lying coastal areas across the central and southern portion of the coast. Coastal flooding during high tide is likely today and again on Sunday, with the most significant inundation expected with the high tide around midday on Monday. Right now we're expecting 4 to 6 feet of inundation above normally dry ground Monday across the southern South Carolina coast. This could result in significant impacts to low-lying areas along the coast. Damage to docks and piers are possible, along with heavy beach erosion. Barrier islands and low-lying coastal roadways could become flooded. Tropical storm force wind gusts are expected to develop Sunday night and persist through Monday night across much of the state, with the strongest winds south and west of I-26 and near the coast. And even a few hurricane-force wind gusts are possible along the immediate coast of southern South Carolina. These winds could cause scattered damage to trees as well as some possible minor damage to structures, and some power outages are expected as well. Rainfall, still a concern for us, 4 to 7 inches of rain, locally up to 10 inches possible across the southern part of the state, a little bit less to the north. This could result in some flash flooding, especially in some of the mountainous terrain in the upstate of South Carolina. And then rivers, again, could still come into flood maybe during the middle to latter part of next week. And we still have the threat for tornadoes, and that looks to be a little bit greatest to the south and west of Interstate 26 on Monday and Monday night. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, John Quagliarello. And briefly, we do have some numbers that have been asked for. It appears those affected, number of people affected by the evacuation in the barrier islands are as follows. At Edisto Beach, 532 people, and this is the normal population. We don't know how many people are home, but that's how many live there. Defusky Island, 468. Fripp Island, 743. Harbor Island, 105. Hunting Island, 168 people. Hilton Head Island, 42,000 people. Knowles Island, 409 people. And Tullafini Island, 32 people. As of right now, and these are consistent with earlier numbers, although we're moving down out of the northern region up around the North Carolina line and Myrtle Beach. 1,349 National Guardsmen on duty, 1,696 troopers and local law enforcement on duty, 107 state guardsmen on duty, 264 SLED agents, probation, pardon, and parole, Department of Natural Resources agents on duty. We have signed today, I signed a memorandum of understanding with Governor Rick Scott of Florida to provide assistance from our National Guard as needed in Florida. And they've already asked for MPs, which we're in the process of providing. Also, we've had agreements and conversations about providing from South Carolina first responders. Those include law enforcement officers, state fire rescue teams, and other agencies as needed. Traffic along Interstates 95 and Interstate 26 is moving along with no significant congestion, and Secretary Hall will address that in a moment. As for gas is continuing to be delivered to stations from terminals. We have 3, Charleston, Augusta, and Belton. Branded gas stations, that's Exxon, BP, the big ones, are not experiencing shortages because they have the contracts with the major oil companies, and they're receiving gas at certain times on deliveries. But the independent, non-branded stations get their gas in a more irregular way, and sometimes they are experiencing some shortages. But if you know where the gas stations are, if it happens that one is out, there ought to be another one close by that's got plenty of gas. And again, we ask people, you don't need to be topping off your cars every day. It's just not necessary at this point. Also, the evacuees, we are now preparing shelters to receive not only South Carolinians, but also our friends from Florida and Georgia, as they should be needed. And I want to mention on that, we've got a lot of hotel rooms that are available in South Carolina, particularly up towards Myrtle Beach and up towards that area on the coast. And I would advise people, you can go to Expedia, go to Travelocity, all those usual places, and you can find we have a lot of hotel rooms that are available all across the state. Furthermore, on the shelters that are open, and I will list those here. It'll take a minute, but here they are. In Colleton County, it is the Colleton Middle School at 1379 Tuskegee Airman Drive. That is in Walterboro. In Jasper County, there's Ridgeland High Junior and Elementary School at 250 Jaguar Trail in Ridgeland. Shelter is there. In Richland County, Dent Middle School. Dent Middle School is at 2721 Decker Boulevard in Columbia. And those are open now, today, opening at 9 o'clock in the morning, or a lot of others. In Beaufort County, Bluffton High School at 12 H.C. McCracken Circle in Bluffton. Also in Beaufort County, Battery Creek High School at number 1 Dolphin Drive in Beaufort. Also in Allendale County, Fairfax Elementary School at 734th East 14th Street. That is in Fairfax. Also in Allendale County, Allendale Elementary School at 4561 Allendale Fairfax Highway in Allendale. Then to Charleston. Charleston shelters on standby, as I mentioned, are North Charleston High School, located at 1087 East Montague Avenue in North Charleston, and also Stall High School at 3625 Ashley Phosphate Road in North Charleston. In Dorchester County, we have 3 Oak Brook Middle School at 286 Old Fort Drive in Ladson. Also at Fort Dorchester High School at 8500 Patriot Boulevard in North Charleston. Also in Dorchester County at DuBose Middle School, 1005 DuBose School Road in Somerville. Takes us to Hampton County. Hampton Elementary School has a shelter on standby, 505 South Hoover Street in Hampton. Also, the Estill High School at 1450 Columbia Highway North, that is in Estill. In Orangeburg County, we have Bethune-Bowman Middle High School at 4857 Charleston Highway in Roseville. Also in Orangeburg County is Orangeburg-Wilkinson High School at 601 Bruin Parkway in Orangeburg. And finally, in Williamsburg County, Kingstree Senior High has a shelter on standby at 615 MLK Junior Avenue, that's in Kingstree. On the question of dams, based on my executive order, DHEC has inspected 51 dams in the state and identify 8 that they will monitor and follow up on when the rains begin. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of hotel rooms available for people who are leaving the coast or our friends from Georgia and Florida who are coming through. With that, I'll call on the Director of Emergency Management Division, Kim Stenson.
Thank you, sir. Well, as you probably know, we've fully activated the State Emergency Operations Center, and that'll continue in the near term. And obviously, our mission is to continue to support local authorities in whatever they might need in terms of resources. We have got a number of requests in, ranging from tarps to generators to food to water, and we're actively filling those right now. We have local, our personnel embedded in local EOCs right now, working with them to effect that coordination. And I would also like to mention, and sometimes it's up here, the PIPS number, and that's our emergency hotline, 1-866-246-0133. And that's for citizens to call in and get questions answered. And that's what I've got for today, sir.
That's very good. Thank you very much. General Livingston, please.
Thank you, Governor. As we prepare to help our neighbors to the south, we are fully staffed here in South Carolina to handle any emergencies, and another 6,000 troops that are not engaged at all. So we are well positioned. Governor, I had a chance to welcome back into South Carolina some of our troops in combat, so we don't want to forget those. We welcomed back our MP company from Beaufort, South Carolina on Thursday, and we had sent our aviation battalion over to Fort Hood in Texas. So we've got guys and gals in Eastern Europe and in Afghanistan and their families back here, so we're working with them too. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Secretary Hall, Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Governor. Mentioned yesterday that we had received about 92,000 additional traffic loadings on our interstates from our neighboring states. That number increased by another 32,000 since yesterday's briefing, so we now estimate that 124,000 additional vehicles have been on our roadways due to the evacuations from our neighboring states. Traffic is flowing very well across the state, as the governor mentioned. I-95, our volumes were at one time, we were near double typical volumes on I-95. We're just now at 15% above normal volume, so almost back to normal on I-95. Interstate 20 is very similar, about 15 to 20% above normal volumes on it. There are a few pockets of congestion along I-95, but it's looking like it clears itself pretty quickly after it's formed. All other interstates in our state are flowing normally, and we have moderate to light traffic on all the other evacuation routes in the state. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much. Director Emily Ford, Labor Licensing Regulation.
Thank you, Governor. State Fire, a division of the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation, stands ready with state assets for both search and rescue, firefighting, or first responder resources that may be needed as we continue to keep a close watch on the hurricane approaching our state. This is assets that are comprised of both state resources and in partnership with firefighters throughout our state. They all stand ready to mobilize and respond to any needs we may have within our state, with close watch on our coastal areas in the western part of our state, and also stand ready to respond as may be needed for our sister states as this storm moves through. And I ask for to provide some more detail on this, Governor, invite Chief Jones, the State Fire Marshal, to provide some detail.
Jonathan Jones, Fire Marshal.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes.
Thank you, Director Farr. As Director Farr mentioned, our state's fire and search and rescue community stands ready to respond to local and regional needs, including any possible requests from other states for assistance. We have teams that are trained and equipped in structural collapse as well as water search and rescue, in addition to, in partnership with the National Guard, our helicopter aquatic rescue teams that just returned from missions in Texas. As always, South Carolina has a well-prepared and very dedicated group of first responders that serve their communities and protect their citizens on a daily basis. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, sir. Colonel Taylor, Department of Natural Resources.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
Governor. Department of Natural Resources is in the process of providing river sweeps along our coastal waters, especially in our southern area of the state, along the ICW especially, to notify transient boaters that may be passing through the state of any dangers that may be pending. And we are doing that on a regular basis as we go through the next few days until it's safe for them to pass through. We would encourage our landowners, our dock owners along the coast to secure their boats. They should remove their boats from the water now before we have storm surge. And the main reason for that is if those boats are there and docks are damaged, it'll add dangerous structure within our waterways that could be dangerous for boaters in the future. So please remove those boats from the water now. We'll continue to work with our local jurisdictions. We'll be patrolling the Barrier Islands by water, making sure that any service we can provide for those landowners, property owners there, that we can do so, and work with the law enforcement community to provide any assistance that we can. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Chief Keel, SLED.
Good afternoon. As the governor said, we've had a number of officers deployed, both SLED agents, DNR officers, and officers from probation, parole, and pardon. We've been in personal contact with all our sheriffs of our coastal counties today, talking to them, providing them any assistance for requests that they may have. Our focus right now is in our low country, Beaufort, Jasper, and Colleton counties especially. We will be providing patrols in those areas that have been evacuated and are available for any other assistance that any of our coastal sheriffs or law enforcement agencies need. Thank you.
Chief. Attorney General Wilson.
Thank you, Governor. As you all know, with the declaration of state of emergency, South Carolina's price gouging laws are in full force and effect. As of yesterday evening, the Office of the Attorney General has received just over 210 complaints. 85% of those price gouging complaints are dealing with the sale of gasoline or fuel, 10% dealing with the sale of water, and the remainder with lodging prices. I wanted to just briefly state that anytime you have a major event such as a hurricane or disaster, you're going to have a large number of people evacuating our border states and states to the south like Florida. And as they come through, they're going to consume resources. So you're going to see a natural fluctuation or increase in the price of certain commodities like lodging, water, food, and gas. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is price gouging. However, if you happen to witness what you believe to be price gouging, there is a way that you can contact us. You can contact the Office of the Attorney General at scag.gov. There's a form on that website that you can fill out that will capture all that information, or you can email it to pricegouging@scag.gov. If you don't have access to a computer or the internet, you can call 803-737-3953. That number again is 803-737-3953. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, General. Director Leroy Smith, Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. Our primary focus right now is in the southern region. Specifically, we're looking at US 21 in Beaufort and US 278 in Hilton Head. As of 10 o'clock this morning, we were on site, standing by to implement a lane reversal should the need arise. At this time, there was not a need for the lane reversal, but we are on site and standing by should that situation change. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. D. Heck Wilson.
Thank you, Governor. The mandatory medical evacuation is proceeding well for the areas affected in Jasper, Beaufort, and Colleton County. That included 3 hospitals. 2 of those hospitals, Beaufort Memorial and Coastal Carolina, received waivers to shelter patients in place. The hospital on Hilton Head has reported that they will be closed at 4 o'clock today. As the governor's already mentioned, we are continuing to assess dams that may be vulnerable in the state to the upcoming storm. We're taking actions with those dam owners to assure that they're in the best condition possible for any storm rain events. Thank you.
Thank you. FEMA, Willie Nunn.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes, sir.
Our main focus is to support the state as Mr. Stenson, the Director of Emergency Management, and the rest of the state partners need resources that go beyond their capability. My job is to bring those federal resources to bear, and we'll do that throughout the incident.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for anyone here?
How many FEMA staff are in the state?
So right now we have about 34 people, and that's not counting our auxiliary people that we have down in Atlanta right now, ready to be staged in case we have to have more.
Next question.
Has everyone you've ordered to evacuate left their homes, or is there anybody you're still worried about?
Well, we always worry that someone won't take the very good advice that's being offered by all these professionals. Of course, that the storm surge is something that's not to be taken lightly, and I think now we're at between 3 to 6 feet along that whole area, all the way up to the Isle of Palms, which is about 100 miles, maybe 90-something miles from the line down in Georgia. So yes, we worry about that, and that's one reason we're here, is to be sure to let everybody know this is not over. There could be high winds. There's going to be a whole lot of water. And in the low country, that's why they call it the low country, because it's low to the water line. And it can flood very easily, and it's going to flood this time. And that reminds me, people, get your vehicles up someplace if you can. If there's a hill somewhere, put it up there. Otherwise, you might have some trouble with your insurance company. But compliance, as far as we can tell, has been good. The sheriffs will be out in various places around 5 o'clock, making a sweep to look for stragglers or those who need help. But we would urge everybody that is in those areas where we have called for an evacuation to evacuate. That is the whole purpose of the order of evacuation.
Do you know how many people are in shelters at this point?
Do not know.
Sir, there's less than 50.
Less than 50, says Mr. Stenson.
Any idea at this point if more shelters opening, depending on what the storm does over the next 48 hours?
Yes. Those were the ones I read earlier. We have 3 that are open now in Colleton County, Jasper, and Richland, but a whole lot more opening tomorrow. Of course, if it turns out they're not necessary, they won't be open long. But right now, we're hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. And the hurricane seems to be going away from us, but that doesn't mean it's going to keep going away. So we have to be vigilant.
Governor, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
The first one, with the people we're expecting to come through and the people evacuating, are you concerned about a gas shortage? I know you mentioned, no?
No, ma'am.
And
See, there's a lot of coordination going on. There's been a lot of planning about that. In fact, Ms. Hall has been in conversation with the regulatory staff about how to find the right routes to get the gas trucks to the stations that need them.
The second question.
With the police escort if necessary.
Why don't you comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Governor. So we've been coordinating with the Office of Regulatory Services, who assists our gas suppliers in the state with regards to route planning to help them navigate around the congested areas. And we have also offered in partnership with the Department of Public Safety to, if necessary, to have a police escort for those if needed. At this point in time, it's not needed. We're doing the route planning for them. Thank you, Governor.
Okay. Next question.
If we're expecting similar levels of storm surge in Isle of Palms and other areas as some of the areas that are being evacuated, could you just explain the rationale for evacuating those areas and not evacuating Isle of Palms and other areas around
It's a
there?
little bit easier to get out of the Isle of Palms than some of these other places. Next question.
And has there been any requests from, you mentioned that there are hotel rooms available, particularly in Myrtle Beach, for folks coming up from Georgia and Florida. Have there been any requests from those states or from evacuees from those states to open shelters for them? Or are there any other provisions that South Carolina can provide for them other than that?
Yes. Well, at the welcome stations, that is a question has been addressed. And it has been explained that these shelters are open to anybody who needs them. But as people get farther away from Georgia and farther away from the storm, particularly as you come across South Carolina, there are plenty of hotel rooms on that side of the state. Any more questions?
At what point do you expect to be able to give the all clear for people to return?
We'll do that when it's all clear. And we don't know when that's going to be. Stay tuned.
How long should, at the minimum, how long should people be prepared to be outside of their homes without being able to return?
Can't say. But as we've been saying from the beginning, this is an indefinite process. People that leave their homes need to be prepared to stay away for several days at the least. But we'll give the all clear as soon as we can. And of course, there'll be much local input into when that notification should be. And then we go into another part of this planning process, which is making sure people can get back just as quickly as possible. But we urge people to remember, just because the winds have died down and it's not raining anymore does not mean it's all clear. There may be power lines that are deadly, that are down in the road, and if there's a limb touching the power line, don't touch the limb. Don't get close to it. Don't stand in the water. Got to be very careful. There may be bridges out. There may be bridges or roads that are weak, and there may be trees down all over the place. So we'll be inspecting that very carefully, and we'll clearly message what we find out. Any more questions?
Governor, what's the one thing you would tell people in the Midlands to be concerned about or to look out for or to be vigilant about?
It'd be the water, that is from the rain, and also the wind. The wind will probably be the main thing if the hurricane stays in the trajectory that we now have, but it may change. But wind is not something to be taken lightly. People get hit by trees and limbs falling off of trees and things blowing around. You've got to be very careful in high winds. And there will be some high winds. Any more questions? Anybody got a final comment?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all, thank you very much. We'll keep you informed.